Author is funded by the Pacific Northwest Writers Association, supporting writers from pen to publication since 1955. To learn more about the PNWA and their yearly conference, please go to pnwa.org. Hi, this is Bill Kenower of Author Magazine, and I'm here at the Bellevue Library in Bellevue, Washington, with Sharma Shields, author of the Sasquatch Hunter's Almanac. Sharma, welcome to Author.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm so happy to be here.
Can you remember when you first realized you cared about stories? Just stories, period.
Well, my mom tells the story that when I was a baby, I was already obsessed with books as an object. She read to me quite a lot, and she caught me sitting in the crib and I was looking at a book, but it was upside down, and she wanted to race over and correct it, but my grandma stopped her and said, no, she just loves the book, and let her just love it as an object, because it's going to turn into a love of reading, a love of story. And I think somehow I must have already been sensing the cadence of the reading voice then, knowing that when my mom picked that object up and held me on her lap and read to me, I was already enamored with that whole process. And that really ended up defining my whole childhood, was a love of books. Probably my next, that was not a memory, that was my mother's memory that she told to me. But I remember writing stories when I was so young that I couldn't even write letters yet, but I would draw pictures on pages, and then I would staple them together and present them to my mom as a book. And I remember doing that, and I remember having the stories in my head, narrating them to her, but I didn't know how to write yet.
All right, so if you were writing Sharma as a character, right, and so you wanted to write about this literate, bright, young, bookish woman who loves these books, and you needed to let your readers know what it is to love a book. How would you describe that for someone who doesn't love books? What is it about the book that is worthy of love, just the physical thing?
I think it's the magic of transport. I think you're transported into a story that is not your own. And I feel that magic whether I'm reading a picture book to my children, or whether I'm reading, a novel that's just been published. And I have to say, I feel that even as much of a physical book lover as I am, I feel that even when I, use my e-reader, which I do. I like using the e-reader sometimes as well. So, I love the physical object, but I do think it's the magic contained therein, and the story there.
Your awareness of the magic, because just looking at it, of course, you aren't transported,
right.
But you're just almost like it kind of crackles with it.
Yes, definitely. Yeah, I feel that vibration, and I'm curious about it, because I think every book has a different vibration to it. And one of the things I love about working in the public libraries is that nobody has the same reading taste. Everybody's going to say a different 3 books are their favorites, right. And none of those people are going to agree with me on what books I love. I think there's just a wonderful, there's a lot of personality encased in the books we read and the books we love.
I remember I heard Andre Dubus say this the first time I interviewed him, and I feel this way about myself when I write now, which is that I feel like I'm at my best, the best person I am when I'm writing. That's when it's going well. Like, that's the best Bill. If I could be that Bill all the time, how nice it would be. Do you differentiate between the Sharma who's writing, where you have to go into that space to write, and then the Sharma that's bouncing around the world?
Yeah, I've been thinking about this a little bit lately. I feel like my identity when I'm writing dissolves in a way that I really enjoy.
Absolutely. In fact, that's exactly right. That's exactly right.
Yeah. I feel like the way that I bounce around the world is a way that is really filled with anxiety and self-consciousness a lot
Right.
of the time. And when I'm writing, that sort of tone of scolding myself that I feel like can be there in my day-to-day life is gone, and I feel dissolved into the project, what I'm working on. I mean, if I were to describe it, it's like I see a picture in front of me, and not a self in a way, but a picture with a landscape and characters, and I have to say, I don't know if it's happiness, but I think it is when I'm definitely the most content.
Yeah.
And when I come out of it, I have to do something physical after it, you know? I need to go on a run, or I don't run anymore. I don't know why I said run. Go on a hike, or I need to take a shower. I need to do something that, you know, wash all the dishes in the house or scrub the floors, or I need to do something that is just not intellectual for a bit, because
Well, you sort of leave your body.
yeah, you do.
You
I
really-
do.
Yeah, you kind of have to.
Yeah.
You have to be more aware of the thing that you're writing about, which of course doesn't exist in the physical world, than the
No.
chair you're sitting in, than the window, what's outside your window.
Yeah, yeah. It's a very surreal process, and it's one I'm extremely familiar with.
Well, you did it when you read. That's what reading is, isn't it?
Yeah,
Really?
yeah, it's true. Yeah, it is. Yep.
The Sasquatch book, was that your first novel you wrote or the first one you published?
First one I published.
How many had you written?
I had written 2 full novels before that.
Okay.
I wrote one when I was in graduate school that maybe I could have salvaged if I had had the maturity to really go in and edit a project.
Right.
But I kind of felt at that time that what I'd written just wasn't good enough, not realizing that, especially for a writer like me, I don't think any first draft is good enough. I will always need to go in and really gut things and really change them. And a lot of times I feel like I don't even know what the book is on the first draft. And it's the going in on the second draft where I really discover the bones of it and carve away, you know, the rotting flesh and put in something much more beautiful.
So that was your first, so Sasquatch was the Sasquatch Almanac was the Hunter's Almanac was your first published book.
Yes.
So there've been 2 others.
Yes. Yeah,
And
the second one was just horrible. The second one I wrote was terrible. Yeah. It was I tried to write a mystery novel, and I don't know how to write
a true mystery,
novel.
like a real, like,
Yeah, like a hard-boiled, yeah, it was awful. It's
yeah,
out
you
of my-
can't write what you don't.
No, what I don't read even. You know, I hadn't read any of that stuff since I was
Did you
in
do it
junior
because you
high.
thought it would sell? It'd be
I
easier
think
to sell?
so. I think
Yeah.
so. I think I thought, oh, I did the literary graduate school novel. Now I want to try to do something, you know, maybe that will be a fast write, fast read. But the truth was, it was completely out of my wheelhouse. I didn't know how to write it at all. And then I also wrote about 300 pages of a fantasy novel. So I kind of had almost
You were
3.
all over the place.
Yeah, yeah. And I wrote my short story collection, which was
Yeah.
published in 2012.
Yeah.
So
Do you remember having a moment in the middle of it where you thought, this is just not going to work out?
you know, I think my most painful moment was after a good friend of mine, John, read the book, and he's an incredible editor. He teaches at Cornell, and he's just incisive and knows what he's talking about. And he had some major problems with one of my early drafts. And I think that when I received his email about it, that was the moment when I thought, there's too much for me to go in and fix. But I had told myself that no matter what, I was going to stick it out and submit this book, because I hadn't done that with the other novels I'd been working on. And I'm for some reason I meant that when I told myself that time, and I did. I stuck with it. I didn't linger in those feelings. I just got back to work and really started editing. And I did. I completely just gutted that book and almost, in effect, started over. But made it so much better. And you know, it's funny, I just read a chapter of it, and I still wince at certain lines. I still want to change things now, even though it's published. It just won the Washington State Book Award, which has been,
Congratulations.
oh, thank you, which has been wonderful. And I still see it as a flawed sprawling, kind of crazy book in a lot of ways. But I'm happy with it too. I'm even happy with it in its flaws. I feel like it's a real thing and it's out there, and I'm proud of it now.
So, Sharma, I have one more question for
Okay.
you. And what I'd like you to do is finish this sentence for me. If writing has taught me anything, it's taught me what? What has it taught you?
The first word that jumps in my head is persistence.
Yeah.
I think that is the whole reason behind anyone's success is that they stuck with it. And I know there are stories where people, hit the nail on the head right in the very beginning. And I know that happens, but I think even those people end up running up against giant boulders in their career, and they have to find a way to, paddle around those boulders. And I think it is a game of persistence. And that's really, I think, the first word that comes to mind for me.